Hello, everyone, and welcome to Jaynky to Max, a podcast where we talk to incredible creators and their fascinating creations that they create. Today on the show, we have Matt.
Hey, everyone. I don't know if I was supposed to say that. But,
no, that's
yeah.
fine. I think, Clive, did you glitch out there for a second?
Oh! Usually you introduce me first.
Oh, that's right.
You keep forgetting.
I've had 6 hours of sleep over here, so... You know what? We'll keep it. We'll keep this. Let's move on. So, you want to introduce Matt properly now?
All right. So, Matt is the CEO and co-founder of Megabots. It is a startup that brought giant fighting robots from fiction to reality. After challenging and fighting Karadas, Megabots fell into a financial difficulty and had to sell off their collection of giant fighting robots. Though he might be without a robot, the dream is still alive. Welcome to the show, Matt.
Hey, guys. Happy to be here. Thank you.
So, I mean, your story's pretty much online, very well documented. But what's like the one paragraph breakdown of?
Yeah. Oh boy. Okay, I'll try to do it in the shortest bit possible. Started a entertainment company that builds giant fighting robots. Challenged Japan to a giant robot fight. Ran a Kickstarter. Raised some money. Raised some venture capital. Built 2 super crazy piloted robots. Had a fight. Everyone was disappointed. Company went bankrupt. Sold robots.
Oh, that's really tough.
That's it in a nutshell. It has so much potential, though. It seemed such a good idea.
It was.
Yeah. So if you're out there watching this, you can pull up the website megabots.com, or just honestly, you can probably just type giant robots into any search box anywhere on the internet, and like that will be us. I think we're pretty much the brand name of giant robots on the internet.
I can verify that. I just typed in giant robots, and like the third picture is I think the Mark 1.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys defined it. So, a lot of us, I mean, heck, we have GeoMechWorks, who we interviewed, I think, a couple episodes ago, is building his own giant robot. But how do you make this transition from, this would be a cool idea, or this is a cool project? How did you make that transition from that to actually being like, all right, let's turn this into an actual thing?
Yeah, I mean, it kind of happened over the course of maybe like 2 years or like a year. But I mean, the short answer is like, it wasn't my idea. It was my co-founder's idea, Guy. And so the short story is we were both running makerspaces in different parts of the country. I was running one in Detroit, and he was running one in Boston. And we just had really complementary skill sets, and seemed like we would work well together. So we just kind of had this like gentleman's agreement that like, hey, if we come across some like big crazy project, let's like pull the other person in, because we could probably do some really cool stuff together. And yeah, I mean, yeah, Guy was definitely the one, like, if you're looking for who was the person who was like, we should build giant fighting robots, that was that guy. If there's like one like person or moment that like, let's take the plunge, it was him, and he called me up, and together, I think we kind of came up with this sports league concept together, because truth be told, I think we just wanted to build giant robots, and we were like,
Who doesn't?
let's just figure out any excuse to make this, like, just, what's the most convincing thing we can tell an investor that we get them to hand over money to us? And, the sports league concept. And as we, I can't speak for Guy, but like, as we kept doing it, I think we believed in the dream more and more as we worked on it more and more. And we realized, like, holy shit, like, this actually is so crazy. It might work. So yeah, I mean, I think in the very beginning, it was just like, man, we convinced someone to give us money to do this, and like, whatever. Like, yeah, we're gonna build like half a robot, and it's probably just gonna go bankrupt, and like, whatever. But like,
we'll have a big robot.
We'll have a big robot. It'll be a great story. And then it kind of started working, and we were pretty surprised. Like, I mean, throughout the company, we almost just always had this feeling of like, holy shit, I can't believe we actually got this far. Like, it's ridiculous.
I mean, I think it's a testament to like how powerful the idea of giant fighting robots is. If you were even like started out like half serious, and you kind of grew to the same level.
Yeah, it's clear to me, if you kind of want to think about the takeaways from the experience, it's clear to me that the demand is there. Like, the concept is super interesting. You can tell pretty much anyone you tell, you like, okay, like, here's the concept. You go to like a stadium, there's like 60,000 people, they all paid $50 a person to see the robots like battle each other or whatever in the stadium. It's a monster truck rally, except there's giant robots instead of monster trucks, basically.
Yes.
Or maybe it's kind of WWE-ish, or maybe it's more rules-based and UFC-ish, or I don't know, whatever. No one still really knows. But the concept of like going to a stadium and watching giant robots do something awesome is very intriguing to a super wide range of people. And when you show them the pictures of the robot, it really cements this idea that like, oh my God, this is clearly the future. It is obviously going to happen at some point. The question is just when,
Yes.
So I've always wondered this, is it cheaper to build giant robots and fight them than it is to, say, own and pay for a pro sports team? Like, how does, if you break down the cost, like, if you take down the parts and everything, is building giant robots more expensive, or is that something you haven't really...
Oh, like, how do the budgets compare to typical pro sports teams? For sure, so the price of entry, I believe, the price of entry is like what I'm describing as like, okay, you built a robot, you've got a team, and you can pay to haul the robot around for a year and go to some tournaments. Okay, so I'll just spit out some numbers. Eagle Prime it cost us about $2.5 million to build. That's like our big bad robot. Bad as in badass robot. And like, I think we looked up some numbers, and I think a NASCAR team's annual budget is like $6 million or something like that.
Oh, that is really not that bad. But man, I hope I'm saying that right. I know, like a monster truck costs $600,000 to build. I think that's what Feld Entertainment told us. We went down to Feld Entertainment. They own Monster Jam. We like toured their facility. At some point, they were discussing like buying Megabots. I don't know how serious it was, but we did go down to Florida and talk to the CEO of Feld Entertainment, Kenneth Feld, a billionaire. And we like walked around their crazy facility.
Oh, right. Back to the numbers. Yeah. So yeah, Monster Truck is like 600K. I think a NASCAR is around like a million or something like that. And then Formula One is like way higher. I think it's like in the like low tens of millions or something, like 12 million or something like a year.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I think, we could work within those budgets.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, like when you get into the like NFL, NBA, I would guess the majority of the cost is like the players' salaries and stuff like that. And yeah, depending on how competitive the sport is, you can spend as much as you want. But I do think the price of entry is reasonable.
Yeah.
The question is like, does that get you a robot that is entertaining for the masses?
Yes.
I think that's maybe the question.
Because isn't that like, I mean, I'm sure you broke it down in other places, but wasn't that like one of the like problems you encountered was trying to make a robot fight that was actually entertaining, and yet like not going to seriously injure the pilots.
Yeah, it's hard to make robot fighting. There's kind of like three competing factors, and it's like safety, cost, and then like speed or destruction, maybe. And so it's hard to get all three of those things at the same time.
Right.
And the easiest thing to remove, if I could do it all over again.
Oh, that was one of the questions.
Yeah. Yeah. What would I try again? I think I would keep the pilot in the robot. I think that it's so hard for me to give that up. It's so cool. The concept that like it's somebody's job out there to be a giant robot pilot is like no teenage boy has a poster of a drone, like a Predator drone on their wall. But they do have like, an F-22 Lightning,
right?
Yeah, because
being
like
in the
a
machine
fighter pilot is cool. A drone pilot is not cool. So it's really hard for me to give that up. But I think what I would do is make the robot, first of all, only one pilot in the robot, not two, and hopefully hopefully that can cut costs a little bit, and maybe make the robots a little bit smaller, but not a ton smaller. Maybe like 20% smaller. One pilot, and I think I would try to just go really hard, like WWE type stuff, not so much like true fighting.
More entertainment value.
More entertainment. And I think one of the big faults of what we delivered for our, big duel was that we never really picked a direction. And like our challenge video was very WWE.
Yeah.
We had capes on, we had goofy sunglasses, there's like flamethrowers in the background. We were characters. We were like great, like who are these people? Like it was all acting, and it was like, let's just take on these larger than life personas. And I think that worked. And then as we went along, we were kind of like, oh, this is going to be this was going to be like a real fight, and we're challenging another country, and and we like told ourselves that we'll like figure it out as we go. I think it was just like too much to bite off. Like it was just too much to bite off. And so some people, like nobody really knew what to expect, I think.
Right.
Yeah. Those first times ever been done like that.
Yeah. Nobody's ever done something like that. And I think we maybe, people had the ability to just sort of like make up whatever expectations they wanted in their mind because we didn't really give them much to work with. You know, it was like we were making these YouTube videos and like they were pretty well produced, and we kind of got more serious as the videos went along. We were like, this is how we're building the robot. There's like real technology behind this. You know, here's the software. Here's the real weapons. And, you know, truth be told, that's all real. But it kind of got more and more serious. And I think people just didn't know, like, what is this? Is this WWE or is this real or like whatever? Like, I don't really know. And I think we should have just like really hammed it up and, you know, like pilots should have like, like at the fight, like, I don't know, someone should have like jumped out of their robot and like climbed onto the other one and like ripped the other person out and started punching them or something, you know.
I'd be down for that.
It should have been like demonstrate that the robots are capable of real damage. Like they're real and they're powerful, but we just weren't. I just don't think we were ready for like a true rule set that produces an entertaining fight. I don't think that was there yet, and I think we should have just like, okay, we have big crazy things that are fun to watch. Let's just make something that's fun, and let's make it clear that like we're not trying to like pull one over on anybody. Like it's just entertainment for now,
right?
You know, but it could evolve into something, you know.
Do you think that challenging Kratos was a good idea, or do you think that if you could do it again, you probably have gone a different route?
No, that was definitely a really good idea. I mean, that's what put us on the map for sure. It came with a huge set of problems that we had difficulty addressing. The big problem is like, the big problem was that you have two parties who speak two different languages on two different sides of the world, and you're trying to like come up with the creative of the fight. Like, what is this going to look like? What's the end vision? What does each group kind of want to get out of this? And there was just so many mismatches on like all of these levels. For example, we had, we probably had like 6 different TV networks that wanted to buy this and put it on TV.
Oh, wow.
Sci-Fi, Discovery Channel, History Channel, National Geographic, Red Bull, I don't know, there's more. They were all calling us. We were having meetings with them.
Wow.
But the issue we always came to was like, they're like, okay, it's great that you agree. And they're like, what do the Japanese guys think? Like, are they going to agree? And we couldn't speak for them at all.
Right.
And it turns out that the Japanese guys were like, no, we don't want this on TV.
Really?
We just want to make a YouTube video.
Why didn't they want it on TV?
I think they just had bad experience with, I don't know, the press and media before, and they were just very hesitant to work with them. I mean, eventually they were just like, we refuse to sign any agreement with any American media company, period.
That's too bad.
So they just wouldn't even have the conversation, and you can't sell half of a fight, it turns out. So it was just like, we got stuck in the spot where it's like, okay, I guess Megabots has to just front all the money and produce this thing ourselves. And, you know, we just didn't have a lot of experience doing that. And yeah, I don't know.
And I saw the video where you broke down the fight video, which is super good, by the way. For those of you listening, if you haven't seen it, check it out. I think it's on your YouTube, Megabots YouTube channel, I take it.
Yeah. I think if you type, what did I title that?
I forget.
How fake was the giant robot duel or something?
Yeah, I think so.
Like that. It was super informative. But one of the things that I think I kind of took away from that was Karatas. It seemed like it was more of a show robot, whereas like, look at this cool giant robot that walks around, that looks like he can fight. Whereas you guys were the actual. I mean, you built them to fight. That was like your whole thing. Is that
Iron Glory, our first robot, or kind of what evolved into our first robot, was made to. It was kind of made to like take hits, I guess, and it could shoot stuff. It was never really made for like melee combat.
Mm-hmm.
Eagle Prime was like we built that thing to literally. I think the spec was it should be able to lift up a Ford Focus with like one hand in the air. Like that's what we designed it to. It should be able to lift up a car, and pretty much everything. And it should be able to like fall over.
Mm-hmm.
Although Eagle Prime has never fallen over. I
guess it brings up the question, like, how does one go about designing and building a giant robot? Like, is it one of those piecemeal things where it's like, oh, let's work on the legs and let's see what we can do after that and build legs? Or is it more something where you had like a plan beforehand, full spec sheets, CAD'd it up, and then built it that way? Like, how did you even go about something so huge?
Yeah, I think the one big trick is, for all of you out there that are thinking about building a giant robot, the one super great tip I have is hire an artist to draw a robot for you, and then sit down with them. And this is what we did for our robots. We hired a guy that used to do concept, actually still does, I think, does concept art for the Mech Warrior video games.
Yes.
And we like flew him out to sit down in our kitchen, and we were just like, all right, start drawing a robot. And we would draw, and every couple hours we would check in and we'd be like, oh yeah, we can't, that's not big enough to fit a person, or like, you got to make that arm a little bigger because like hydraulic cylinder won't fit there. And like, how does that knee actually actuate? And, and so we kind of like the engineers would go back and forth with the artist, and we would just kind of sit there and, cross our arms and be like, you can't build that. You got to make that a little wider, or this has to be reinforced or whatever. And then he would, erase parts, and he would add a little more. And we just kind of go back and forth. And it took about 3 days for each robot. And at the end of 3 days, we would have something that looked cool because an artist drew it, and could, like, you could get it, like, close to actually, like, building what the concept art shows. So the concept art has, and you guys can like look at all our concept art or whatever, it's on the internet somewhere, maybe on our Kickstarter page is a good example.
Mm-hmm.
But you can see that like the robots we built, it's like, it doesn't have all the cool like little rocket pods and lights and weird little nooks and crannies and armor panels and stuff as the concept art, but kind of has the same general idea. So yeah, we take the concept art and we have the artist draw like orthogonals, which is just like straight on view and straight side view. And then we just import that into a CAD program, and we just start laying like steel shapes down for the outer structure. And then you kind of have the general outer structure, and you take a human form in the CAD program, and you kind of like plop it onto the torso, and then you just sort of like build around it.
Wow,
That's awesome.
that is a really good tip. I never would have thought, but that makes good sense. Getting an artist.
Yeah, because the thing is, engineers are just like, they'll just never admit it, but they're just not very aesthetic, You know,
I remember that.
So
You know.
true.
engineer like, oh, build this giant robot. Like, it's just going to be a big like square on wheels or something. You know?
Yes, for sure. Well, what was one of like the highest point in this whole thing? Like, biggest thing, like top of the mountain. What was that?
Jesus.
Or maybe a couple if there's more than one.
Yeah, I mean, it was great. It was really nuts to go to like probably like when the Tsutobashi like response video came out and the whole world suddenly realized like, oh, this is on. That was probably like the first big like, oh my god, this is like a potentially crazy life-changing thing. Because people, it went like really viral. I mean, it was crazy. It was on like all these news channels, and I just remember the craziest thing was just like, I would wake up in the morning and my phone was just vibrating. It sounded like it was ringing. It was not ringing. It was just like the notifications firing, and the notifications were all emails from like, it would be like CNN and like Popular Mechanics and like, you know, Engadget and, you know, NPR, and it was just like they were just coming in like that fast. Crazy.
Wow.
And for like 2 weeks, there was 3 of us at the time. For like 2 weeks, we were just on the phone taking interviews with like these crazy big media companies, and everybody wanted to talk to us, and it was really nuts to be able to like, you could just, what I felt like, you know, we were living in the Bay Area, so yeah, we're a little bit in the bubble and people are into that kind of stuff over here more, but you could just like walk up to almost anyone on the street, and probably like a fifth of them had heard of it.
That's incredible.
You could just be like, you just mention like, oh, USA versus Canada giant robot duel, and like a fifth of the people be like, oh yeah, I saw that. That's you? Like, holy shit, man, that's awesome. You know?
Oh, that's
incredible. And it's just so crazy. And it's funny because, you know, the YouTube video, I don't know what the YouTube video is at, the challenge video, whatever. I think it's probably like 8 million views now or something. But, the headlines was like way bigger than that. Like, just like the headlines and the thumbnails and like the stories about it that were going around. I mean, we were on the front page of Reddit like a couple times, I think.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, it was nuts, you know, trending on YouTube. So that was definitely like one of the moments, from like a holy shit, this robot actually works, moment. Probably like the first arms test of like, lifting a car up in the air with the robot arms. When the robot was like, it was kind of on this weird test stand. We called it the Tower of Death. But basically we took the upper half of the robot and we just like bolted it to the top of this like big steel tower and like put some wheels on the tower. So you could kind of like wheel it around, and the cockpit was up at like the height it was going to be at when it was on the robot. And so you could eyeball it and you could be like, yeah, that's how high the cockpit's going to be. But yeah, when we fired that engine up and really, you know, hit the button to like play the animation, and it picked up the car, it was like, oh my God, this thing, like, yeah, it's real.
Oh, what a fantastic moment to have.
Yeah.
Finally going from that concept, the idea, all the way up to, you know, the working on it for, I can only imagine how many hours you put into of development time and building time, and then finally having that final product and it actually works.
How long was the build time? Like, you must have been working on that, what, 24/7 almost?
Yeah, I think the worst for like
Better question than that. What would you say is the robot to business balance that you had?
Oh, well, when it was a little more like, yeah, it was a little more like 50-50 when we were building Iron Glory.
Mm-hmm.
Because at the time it was a very small team, like 3 people or something, and we had to build the robot ourselves. Probably the peak of like terrible sleep schedule, staying up super late, just like building and waking up and building and waking up and just answering emails in between with like greasy hands and whatever. That was when we were building Iron Glory before like our first big appearance at Maker Faire. By the time we were building Eagle Prime, we had hired a engineering team. So I think I did 0 engineering work on Eagle Prime.
Oh.
I did all like the electronics and the software and stuff on Iron Glory, which was a lot simpler, granted, but whatever. There was some stuff there. But yeah, by the time we were building Eagle Prime, I had pretty much removed myself from engineering and was mostly just focused on like business development and sales and media and just like trying to get the videos produced and stuff like that. Because there's just so much of that. The truth is, I don't know if this is, it's like, I realize that my engineering skills are pretty replaceable.
Mm-hmm.
Which I guess takes some amount of self-awareness, but like, I'm not maybe this is inspiring to people, but like, I'm not a fantastic electrical engineer. I'm okay. But, like, I can hack some stuff together, whatever. Like, it's good enough.
Right.
But I mean, the electrical engineer we hired, Miles, he's way better than me. I mean, he builds battle bots and stuff like that. So,
yeah,
he's got more experience, and yeah, pretty much anyone with an electrical engineering master's degree is going to do as good or better of a job than me. It's not like I'm not some like crazy Tony Stark person.
Right.
And I think that's something awesome that kind of helps people to understand that you don't have to be a master profession at whatever the
you totally
is.
don't.
You can just jump into stuff and you learn as you go.
Yeah, that's a great point. You don't have to be some crazy Tony Stark person to do this. It's really just, it's like you just one piece at a time, and it's just like building construction equipment. That's really about as complicated as it is. It's not, at the end of the day, the robots look like this big, crazy, cool science fiction thing, but that's just because we've sort of been programmed to do it by movies and video games or whatever over the years. But it's just, honestly, it's just construction equipment. It's like a tractor. It's a farm, it's a farm, piece of farm equipment that's shaped differently.
Oh, that's what, I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's kind of what I've been trying to communicate. Last month we focused on space, and we talked to people who work in the open source small satellite community. Incredible people, but like the same principle applies there, right? Like, you don't have to be a rocket scientist to build a small satellite or work on this stuff. You have to be interested. You have to have the drive, and gonna mess up. You're gonna make failures, but it doesn't require some special.
Right. You don't have to get it right the first time. You do your revisions, do a lot of testing, and then eventually, after, a while of development and building, like, you got a product that you've learned on, that's how you really get your experience, is you just gotta get in there and build it.
Yep.
Yeah, and that was kind of some of the magic of Megabots was like, you'd like look at the robot all together and you'd be like, oh my god, that's like a crazy science fiction robot. But then you step closer and you're like, oh, that's just like a bolt from like Home Depot. And that guy over there, he's just got like a hand drill and like a hammer. And that guy's just got like it's like a pallet jack. And that's something you'd jack your car up with. And that's that over there is like just a normal oil filter you'd find at AutoZone. And, like, the closer you get to the robot, you realize it's just a bunch of stuff that already exists. Like, it's not crazy science fiction. And,
Exactly.
that's just construction equipment. Like, and so it made it so much more, like, the dream just sort of put in front of people's faces. Like, you can just build this stuff with today's technology. I don't know.
Absolutely.
It's so inspiring. Gosh, I want to build a giant robot now.
Do it with somebody else's money. That's my recommendation.
Best advice I've heard all day.
Yeah.
That's a big thing. Did you ever encounter, like, in the whole whole thing? Do you ever encounter, like, common misunderstandings people had about Megabots? Like, do you ever have one of those?
Yeah.
Correct them. Yeah.
Yeah. The most common, the most annoying that I'll never ever get rid of is when people see it and they immediately go like, "Is the military? The military is going to take this and they're going to make big war machines, and why don't you sell this to the military?" And no matter, I just cannot get it. That's just everybody's reaction. And the honest truth is, like, a tank is going to destroy these things 10 times out of 10.
Guarantee or your money
tank
back.
is built to be, low to the ground, which is, you want something low that doesn't tip over easily, has a small side profile, so it's hard to hit with, like, an RPG. And,
That's such a normie thing to say, though. Like,
yeah. And so it's just the damn, decades and decades of science fiction movies that tell us that in the future, all governments have big war machines that are giant robots. Like, that's the narrative.
All right.
So everyone believes it, but nobody stops to think, like, why would you build this big wobbly, tippy thing that is, just like, it makes no sense when you start to think about it.
Right, exactly.
They do look cool. The second, which is a close second, is, they're like, you should rent it out for movies. Like, people should pay you to have it in movies. Which is, like, a little more understandable that someone suggests that, but it's just not how Hollywood works. Like, if I'm Michael Bay and I'm like, I'm going to make a Transformers movie, like, what am I going to do? Am I going to pay somebody else to have their, like, I'm not going to make a commercial for somebody else's robot. Like,
right.
They can pay me to put their robot in my giant commercial. Mm-hmm. Like, Michael Bay is going to get paid to, like, have something in his movie. And second of all, it's with CGI, you can have a robot that, jumps into the sky and grabs a helicopter and, throws it like a football. Whereas,
and continues the myth of giant fighting robots.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. So, just like, it's just these, those couple of things that are just like, people see the robot and it's this knee-jerk reaction, and I guess it's understandable, but they're just completely irrational.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I know. Glavin and I, we've had our conversations about how ridiculous the whole idea of, like, giant fighting robots really is. Like,
yeah.
I mean, and like, your robot, it was incredible. I mean, no doubts about that. But it didn't walk, right? Like, imagine if you added that extra step of walking. I mean, that'd be so ridiculous.
Yeah, you definitely went the right route with having treads. That's
yeah.
I've watched a lot of Boston Dynamics and what's going on with just what's required to get a bipedal machine walking. Like, I've actually gone to Honda and seen they have their I can't remember the name of the robot that they have there, but I mean,
Asmo,
yeah. And it's just so much work just to get it, a two-legged thing. Even though it's smaller than a person, like, just to get it to walk. I mean, it's just so much programming and sensors that are required for that. It just makes it astronomical just to make of a goal to achieve versus just having it on treads or having it at least quadrupedal makes it significantly easier, but it's still hard.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I do think it's possible. And there's that company in South Korea that's got. I think they're maybe bankrupt now, but Hankook Marais Technologies. They built like the Method 2 or Method 3 or whatever. It's possible, although I don't think their robots are dynamically stable. I think they're just sort of like playing an animation, and they're just sort of chained to the ceiling. And like, if you put like a rock in front of it, it would not know how to handle it. It would probably just step on it, lose balance, and tip over. I think it's not dynamically stable. I think it's just playing an animation in its legs. But yeah, I think it's possible. It's the reason we didn't do it. I mean, cost for sure, but mostly it was like the power. We weren't sure how to get past the power density calculations because the robot was so heavy. I think we needed. I think it was something like we needed like 100 or 1,500 horsepower per leg or something is what we calculated it out to get like fast enough response time for the robot to be able to catch its balance dynamically or something. Anyways, we just couldn't get the power. Like there was no, I don't know, like you get like a crazy turbine engine in each leg or something like that. We just couldn't figure out how to get the,
just a nuclear reactor on the back.
Yeah, something like that. So
nuclear reactor fighting robot. I mean, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah. So
don't sit too close now.
I think it's possible. You'd have to make the robot a lot lighter, so you wouldn't need as much power. But yeah, the smaller robots are a little easier. In some sense, they're harder because you need the sensors and the control system to react faster because they tip over faster.
Yep.
Like a tall, like if you take a big tall broom, a broom is easier to bounce on your fingertips than a ruler is.
By far.
So if you think about it that way, you have longer time to react if your robot is big and tall, but you need a lot more power. The power is the problem. With the smaller robots like Boston Dynamics, it's not so much power. It's just more like sensor reaction time and that's kind of stuff.
Exactly.
Wow. It makes sense. You
also
think of it that way. That makes a lot more sense.
Yeah. Plus, you got the whole square cube law thing going on too. So I mean, like.
Yeah. And the square cube law is what causes you to have that ridiculous power requirement.
Exactly.
Right. Oh. Yeah, that would be like if it was like if you could get past all those technical barriers magically, say, would you have like had the walking robots, or do you think that like the treads is just a better decision in general?
No, we definitely. I mean, all our concept art had legs. The robots had legs. We definitely wanted. Of course, you want a walking robot. That's that's what the science fiction has promised us, and so we were kind of working towards that. But it just kind of got to the point where it's like we actually have to like build the robot in a year's time frame. So like how are we going to do that? Well, we're just going to put some goddamn treads on the thing.
Wrap this up. But one last question: how do you project manage something like a robot? Like, do you use like the similar principles that you would in like a normal like software setting? Like, would you use agile, lean, that sort of stuff, or do you just completely go off the rails and kind of do your own management philosophy?
Yeah, it was agile for the software. For the kind of at a higher level, it was mostly like we just got a big calendar and like put it on the wall, and we started with the date of the duel, and we just sort of worked back, and we were like, okay, what are the major subsystems that need to be done at certain points to like integrate on the robot? And so we just sort of worked backwards, and we were like, okay, well, however many months before shipping, we have to have the whole robot we got to be tuning the robot for the last 2 months or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, 2 months back, the whole robot needs to be integrated. And then prior to that, it's like, it's kind of like how the YouTube videos are laid out. So the first would be like, God, what was the first subsystem we did? I guess the track base. Track base gets done first. Then the legs go on top of it. We test the weapons. We, do the cockpit, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And so we just put all of those on calendars and we just worked backwards from there and had integration milestones that also correlated to YouTube video launch dates. So it was like partially like, and then you'd have to kind of integrate that with your video launch schedule too, your video production, all that kind of stuff. So that was like a whole nother layer. Yeah,
there's a lot more systems. Yeah, that must have been it's such an incredible journey. Like, and so you're still keeping on the dream, right? Like you're still Megabots is still technically a thing, right?
Yeah. So the state right now, like the corporate entity is dissolved. There's no Delaware C Corp, whatever Megabots Inc. anymore. But I bought the social media channels and the domain name and stuff like that. And I would like to come back to building giant robots, but I just need to figure out how to make it sustainable. The business model I'm trying to toy with right now is okay, so I'll kind of walk you through it. I get requests from sponsors in my email, probably like once a week. Someone emails me and says like, "Hey, will you promote this mobile game or this VPN service or whatever?" And budget's around like $1,200. So I'm like, can I take that $1,200 and then can I pay some other shop? I have a bunch of friends with shops around, like maker spaces, whatever, like there's all these people around the country that have a shop, they have tools, they love building stuff, but they have no way to monetize it. So can I take that $1,200 and can I just pay somebody else to build something cool? Maybe it's not a giant robot, but it's something cool. And they build it. And then I make a video about it and I put it on the channel. And then that grows the channel a little bit. And then I have like 4 shops doing that and then 8 shops doing that. And so eventually you can kind of get like, 8 videos per month to come out. Right. Because like all these people are building stuff and they're getting paid by the sponsors. Mm-hmm. And so if you're able to keep a release schedule of like 8 videos a month, like that grows a YouTube channel. What doesn't grow a YouTube channel is like one team releasing 1 video per month.
Right.
You just need a consistent stream of content. So can I get like 8 different shops building stuff and I'm just basically forwarding the sponsorship money to them and they're doing all the building and I'm just producing the content and growing the channel. And as the channel grows, those budgets go from like $1,200 to $2,000 to $4,000 to $8,000 to $10,000 to $20,000. And eventually you have a channel or like a, social media, like a media company effectively that can afford to pay, 8, 10, 20 shops to build big and cool things.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
And eventually get back to the robots, right?
Eventually they can build, you've got your giant robot teams.
Nice.
I love that idea. I love that idea. That is brilliant. It's like bootstrapping to the extreme.
Yeah, so they're not going to be building giant robots at first, but I'm wondering, like, I think there's a path to work back towards it, and
it'll also be more sustainable, right? Because you aren't going to be dependent as well, hopefully, right? You aren't going to be as dependent on venture capital and invest at the whim of investors in the market.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Then you don't have to take on venture capital. It's a thing that, is grown. And, by the time it can support these bigger budgets, you've got a huge audience and stuff like that. And, you look, I'm sure you guys follow the Hacksmith and he's building the those guys are building the power loader. And so, they have budgets to kind of get there. I'm hoping that this is a better way to do it because, it's tough for like one shop to keep releasing a bunch of content on, schedule.
That's something that we've kind of run in, on a much smaller level, but a lot of us have our own YouTube channels, but none of them are very popular because, we just don't have that. And also if you're a single shop, what I love about it is if you are a single, producer, you can focus on things like optimizing the algorithm, on production quality, way more than, any one person.
Yeah, so if you have these individual teams, they can take their time and they can just build one thing per month or whatever. But because you have a bunch of them, they're all working together to grow this sort of like one YouTube channel that sort of benefits from the scale of a lot of content. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I don't know. So that's kind of what I'm toying with. I'm actually going to be filming on Sunday for kind of the first test of this. I've got some friends that are building the first project. We're going to see how it goes. I mean, I think some of the risks are like, if you like send a shop $1,200, like, are they really going to build something that's cool? Cool enough to watch? Is it going to be attention grabbing? I don't know. There's a bunch of kinks to work out. It may not work, but I think.
It's a good idea to start off with.
Yeah, I think it's got potential. We'll build a few projects and we'll see how it goes, and maybe have to tweak it. But it's in motion. We're trying it. If it works well, I'll put a thing on the website and be like, okay, we're taking applications for like who wants to just get paid to build cool shit. Like, apply here and we'll just start sending money your way and like give us footage.
Man, this might be right up my alley.
See, everybody's going to want to do it.
So do you have any? So I think you have the Megabots YouTube channel, but anything else you want to plug?
Yeah. Let's see. YouTube channel, Instagram, the Twitter. I don't give a shit about Twitter. I have a TikTok now, which honestly is almost.
Really?
It's crazy. TikTok is madness. I only have a personal account. It's at Build and Break. Megabots is already taken by some, person who posted like one thing. But yeah, I posted probably 6 videos on TikTok, and I think I'm up to 118,000 followers or something like that. I mean, it is crazy.
Wow.
The last thing I posted on TikTok, got 70,000 extra followers. It's like, It's a, freaking 15-second video, 60-second video.
It's crazy.
I made it in an afternoon, and I'm like, God, it's kind of, I don't know. Is it, I don't know, disappointing or something? It's like, man, I just kind of shat out this 60-second bullshit video or whatever, and it's way bigger audience that,
right.
And weeks on a YouTube video, and it gets me 2,000 followers or something like that. And then I just post something on TikTok. It's crazy organic reach. So millions of views.
Yeah, I don't want to get TikTok. It's I don't want to believe in the idea of a TikTok, right? The idea that humanity is at such a low point that we are spending our time watching people, what was it, mostly dance videos, I feel like, is on TikTok?
I think it kind of used to be a lot more like that. I think you'll see it evolve more into there's kind of something for everybody on there. But for sure, I mean, when you first hop on, for those of you who have not used TikTok, basically when you first hop on, they just don't know what to show you. It's kind of like immature in the sense that you post and your post just goes to everybody. Potentially everybody can see your post. And it's crazy AI system, whatever, just tries to get your content to whoever, is going to react to it or engage with it. So So like when you first hop on, it knows nothing about you. So it's going to give you like the lowest common denominator. What does everybody love? Hot girls. That's, like it's
Right.
guy, female, straight, gay. It doesn't matter. Everybody just likes to look at hot girls. So it's just going to show you like pretty girls dancing, whatever. Mm-hmm. And if you start liking that, then it'll show you more of that. If you don't click like on that and you scroll past it and you find like, I don't know, the crazy like car tuner guys or like the, personal finance geeks or what, like there's all that stuff on there too. The like DIY builder people, and that's all on there too. It's just, you gotta kind of like get past all the bullshit that it just sort of shows you when it doesn't know what you'll like.
That makes sense.
That's kind of my experience with it, but and that's aside from the whole like, is this just like a big spyware thing from China? Like, I don't know.
That's the other thing in my mind. Like, started in China. It's like the coronavirus for social media.
Yeah. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert enough to speak on that, so I don't even want to speculate. But who knows? Who knows? They're probably spying on me.
Well, thank you so much for hopping on the show. I mean, I've learned so much. Fantastic.
It was super fun. Always fun to talk about, and follow along. Oh, also you can go to the website megabots.com and punch your email address in. There'll be a little pop-up that pops up. You can punch your email address in, and you'll be on our email list to get notified when new stuff happens.
I haven't done that. I will do that as soon as we're done here. Well, anyway, thanks for being on the show, and wherever you guys are, whatever your project you're working on, remember to keep things janky to the max.
Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in to this episode of To The Max. If you liked it, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel, and even join the Discord server in the description as we stream the podcast live every single weekend over there. Anyway, make sure to stay janky.